Hello friends, today we're going to make Russian borscht or beet soup. So we're going to start by boiling a pot of water. We're going to bring it to a hard boil, and then once it does, then we're going to put beef bones into the pot. So we're going to use beef bones to make the stock. So I already rinsed the bones to get rid of any chunks that might be on the meat from butchering. We're going to begin with filling up a cooking pot with cold water. While the pot is boiling, at the same time, I'm also going to get the beets going. So I have in this pot here about 8 small size loose beets. You can either use loose beets, you can actually use beets that have stalk. The entire beet is edible, the leaves and the roots as well. So I bought some loose beets in the grocery store. I actually do have some chopped up leaves in the fridge. I grow my own beets in the garden, so last year I had some leaves that I chopped up and threw in the freezer, so whenever I need to make borscht, I just take it out of the freezer and add it to the soup. But we'll do that later. So we have beets cooking, we have the water warming up. The beets, once the water starts boiling, I'll bring it down to just simmering, and I will cook the beets for about 25-30 minutes. These are pretty small size, so it won't take them long to cook. If your beets are a little bit larger, you can cook them longer, 40 minutes. Basically, the way to tell that the beets are ready is you take a sharp knife and you put it through the beet. When the knife goes in with ease, then your beets are done. You do not peel the beets before you cook them. The skin actually helps retain the color of the beets. So we'll peel them once they're cooked before we put them in the soup. So while my beets are cooking and my water is boiling, I'm going to go do a few things around and I'll be back. See ya. Okay, so my pot is boiling now. I'm going to, oh yes, nice and steep. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop the meat in the boiling water. We're gonna let it boil for about 5-10 minutes. I want the blood to coagulate, and then I'm gonna dump the water from the pot and fill it with fresh, clean, cold water. So 5 minutes, and then we will be done, and my beets are coming to boil as well. So I'm going to turn it down, and we're going to cook it for about 25 minutes. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes. Now I'm going to drain the water that's in the pot, and I'm going to fill the pot with fresh, clean, cold water. So I'm going to remove this from the stove and drain the water and get all that yucky stuff out. Woo! Can't see anything. So I'm actually going to take a paper towel and I'm going to wipe the sides of the pot with a paper towel, trying to get rid of this chunk. Yes, that is coagulated blood, my friends. Nothing to be worried about, but you know, I like to just clean it. And now we can fill it up with cold water again, and we'll let it cook for about 2 hours. Okay. So back on the stove it goes. Now we're going to bring it back to boil and we're gonna let it cook for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, so I will be back. All right, it's been 25 minutes on the beets, so I'm going to check and see if they're ready. And I'm going to take a knife and I'm going to poke it through. Oh yeah, goes in easy. So beets are done. We're going to turn them off. Now we want to cool them. So I'm actually going to save the beet juice. I'm going to add it to the soup later. I'm going to take the beets out and let them cool so I can peel them and then shred them. It'll cool them much faster if they're not sitting in hot water. So. If I have any leftover beets, I can always make a beet salad. Garlic and beet salad, ooh, delicious. All right, so we're gonna also check quickly on our pot. Oh yeah, it's boiling. Hello again, friends. So while our meat is cooking, we're gonna do some other prep work with vegetables. So I have some carrots here that I'm going to peel and shred. I have some dill. Dill is a must in borscht and pretty much any Russian soup, in my opinion. I love dill. It has such a beautiful aroma, and it's actually very good for you. So I'm going to start with washing the carrots. So I've got, let's see, 4. So we're going to do 4 large carrots. I'm going to wash them first. I'm going to take a hefty bunch of Italian parsley and a hefty bunch of fresh dill. So let's split it in half. I'm going to do half. Okay. I'm going to wash it. Back in the hands. More carrots. Oh, let's see. Where's my knife? Ta-da! All right, so to grab a couple carrots here. And I'm just gonna chop up some scallions. Green onions. I'll add them actually as a garnish. One thing I did forget to do, which I'm gonna do right now, is put an onion in with my meat. And I actually use a whole onion and just drop it in the pot. So I'm gonna use the onions for garnish. So I just use a yellow onion, and I usually, this is actually a pretty big onion, usually I buy small onions, and I'm going to peel it and drop the whole thing in the pot with meat. So while the meat is cooking, the onion is going to cook as well. It's a pretty big pot, so it'll be all right. Just going to put it inside. I'm also going to salt it. All right, right, so now we're going to chop up the dill and the parsley. Actually, just do everything together. So I'm just prepping this. I usually add about 5-10 minutes before the soup is completely done. So I'm just going to let it go here. And then the second half of it, I'm going to chop up, and then we're going to garnish the soup together with the onion. And you really don't need much, but I love both. I love parsley, and I love dill. Especially love dill. Just, it smells so beautiful. So I'm going to use half of it in the soup while the soup is cooking, and then save the other half for garnish. Okay, so now we're going to take care of carrots. Get my peeler and peel the carrots, and we're going to shred them. I remember growing up, my mom made all these dishes, and I just stayed in the kitchen with her, just watching her. And it wasn't until later in life that I actually started cooking. I love to cook. And I love to cook Russian dishes. Alright, I'm going to go and grab just a few potatoes. I'll be right back. So I have a bag of potatoes. They're pretty big size, so I'm going to use about three of these. Should be more than plenty. I'm going to peel them. I'm just going to peel them and put them in water for now until I'm ready to add them to the soup, and before I do, I will cube them into small cubes. All ready to go. So I'm going to get a deeper bowl of these so I can cover them completely with water. So. Okay, so potatoes are peeled. Now we can try this contraption and see how it works for shredding the carrots. My friend gave it to me for Christmas, and I really liked using it for shredding the beets, because I always cut my fingers, or rather, shred my skin on a regular. So let's see. Works like a dream, folks. I'm loving it. Just hold it with my hands for now. Put the hands off so that I can use the press. I wish this device had a little bit better suction, because it does slide, so you have to hold it down. Not always easy. Okay, we're almost there, folks. Beautiful. All right, we're done. And I didn't cut my fingers. Isn't that beautiful? And it's so easy to disassemble. So I'm going to set the carrots aside for now. We're going to add them at the same time as we do potatoes. So let's see what time it's now. Okay, we're actually getting pretty close with the meat. All right, I'm going to rinse it and put it back together. So we have our beets. I took them out of the water. They should be, yep, they're cool now, so I can actually shred them. So I'm going to grab a bowl. Like I said, whatever I don't use in the soup, I will use maybe to make a salad. Okay, so first we got to peel the beets. And sometimes, usually when they're cooked, the skin comes off so easily. It's effortless. So you just got to cut this part off. Easy peasy. Woo! Run away. These just look so beautiful. Love beets. Good. Okay, let me check them and see how we're doing. I'm gonna bring you guys over. You're coming with me. I'm gonna check it out. See how things are progressing. So this is our beef soup bones. There's 2 of them, and I'm gonna poke it with a fork and see if it's ready. So basically, what you want is you want the meat to start coming off the bone. That's when you know that it's done. Then we'll start adding all the other ingredients in the soup. So I'm gonna set the phone down and I'm gonna check and see how we're doing with the meat. So all right, so I'm gonna this. So I'm gonna check and see what's going on with our meat. It does not look like it's ready yet. I just realized that I'm wearing sunglasses because I was outside. Okay, so the meat is not ready yet. We're gonna continue cooking it for, I'll come back and check in about half hour or so and see how we're doing. So, all right. Okay, I'm going to add some seasoning while the meat is cooking, and I'm gonna put a couple of leaves, bay leaves. 1, 2, 3. So I'll use 3 bay leaves. Cloves, so I'm going to use 2 cloves. They're they add very beautiful aroma. So you don't need many, just 1 or 2, because you don't want it to overpower all the other spices. And then I'm also going to use whole black pepper. So I'm going to use about 6 or 7. Okay, friends, it's time for us to check our broth and see how we're doing. Ooh, look at that. I'm just gonna test it with the fork, and yes, the meat is falling apart, so it is ready. And as you can see, it boiled down significantly, but not to worry. If you recall, I said earlier that I saved the beet juice from cooking the beet. So I'm going to strain it and I'm going to add it to the pot. But first I'm going to actually remove the meat. Remove the soup bones, and I'm actually going to take the onion out too, and the bay leaves, because you don't want to eat the bay leaves. I wish you could be here with me. Just smell it. It smells so delicious. So I'm taking the meat out. I'm going to let it cool off a little bit, and then I'm actually going to shred it and then put it back, add it back to the meat. So sorry, to the pot. So we're going to start adding the ingredients. So right, I'll be right back. What I'm going to do is, as I mentioned, I saved the beet juice from the beet. So I'm just going to use a strainer just in case if there's chunks, that I'm going to add it to the pot. We're going to add potatoes. So again, I cubed 3 large potatoes. And I usually like to make them into small cubes, about 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch large. And then I'm going to add carrots, shredded carrots. We're going to let it cook for about 15 minutes before adding the beets, because if you remember, the beets are already cooked. We also have this green stuff, which is beet leaves, but those won't take long to cook at all. We don't want to overcook the beets because they really then lose its natural taste last. So we're gonna wait a little bit and we're gonna be back in about 15 minutes. So it's been about 15-20 minutes. Our potatoes and carrots should be almost done. So we are going to go ahead and add the remaining ingredients. So these are beet leaves. They're just chopped up. Actually going to add the beets last because I want to hear. So what I did is I separated the meat from the bones and I just shredded it. I'm going to mix it all in. I'm going to add a couple of cloves of garlic. So I just need something to mash it with. It's a lot easier to separate garlic from its peels if you just mash it. So I'm just gonna put a whole garlic clove just like this. I don't need to chop it. The garlic. Now we're going to add beets, and I'm just going to add let's see, I'm going to add 4 spoonfuls and we'll see how we're doing. It's pretty thick. Soup. Let's see. All right. I think we have enough beets, so I'm going to save the rest of these beets. I'm going to make beet salad for garnish. So now I'm going to add a small can of pasta sauce. Well, actually, it's tomato. It's my homemade tomato sauce. I canned it last year, and it's just tomatoes and some basic seasoning like garlic and parsley. So you can add diced tomatoes, or if you have whole tomatoes, you can dice them and add them. I'm just going to add this sauce, tomato sauce, instead. And it's really to, again, the beets are very sweet, and so tomato sauce or tomatoes help add a little bit of acidity so it doesn't taste so sweet. And now I'm going to add seasoning and herbs. So this. So this is our chopped parsley and dill. So I'm gonna add a handful of that. And then I'm going to save the rest of it for garnish. I'm going to add some salt. And once again, because beets are very sweet, I'm actually going to add some extra salt to the spoons, to the soup. So as you can see, I'm adding 2 spoonfuls, and then I'm going to add some just pre-mixed vegetable seasoning mix. Like my Borsch to have a little kick. So this is dried salsa peppers. These are from my garden. I grew them last year and I dried them. So I'm gonna just add a dash. It's gonna add a little bit of a kick to it. If you don't like spicy, you don't have to add it. You can also add just red flakes. You can add paprika, you can add horseradish, really whatever your taste is. So I'm going to mix it, I'm going to bring it to boil, and I'm going to cook it for 10 more minutes. I'm going to cook it for 10 more minutes once it comes to boil. And then this is it, folks. So I'm going to put the lid back on. let it come to boil and simmer. So if you want a vegetarian option of the soup, you can just forego the whole, beef bones. You can just start it with the vegetable stock, or you can also use beef broth if you just prefer, again, to cut down on cooking time and speed up the process. You don't have to make your own broth if you don't want to. You can either use beef broth or you can use vegetable broth instead, and then add all the ingredients as I described before. So we'll be back in 10 minutes. Look at that deliciousness. Well, folks, it's been 10 minutes and I am going to turn it off because our soup is done. I'm going to let it sit for about 15 minutes before I serve it. If you could only smell the aroma in the house, it smells so good. Can't wait to try it. Well, friends, it's time for us to try our soup. So, bring it over here. I'm going to get a ladle and scoop it out. Oh, it smells so delicious. I'm going to set the lid down. Yes, it's a very weird color, but it tastes so delicious. So I'm just gonna scoop a dollop of sour cream. I like to eat my borscht with sour cream. Sprinkle with a little bit of green onions and parsley and dill. Ready to try it. Bon appetit. It is so good. So delicious. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I do. Bon appetit. Приятного аппетита!